everybody. This is Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together. Welcome to the show. I missed you guys. I've been away for a couple of weeks working on some personal projects and some work, and I have not been here, and I sure have missed you. There's something you folks have known me for a while. I like my structure. I like my calendar set, and not being able to do a show every Saturday really throws me off for the week. Um, Number one, because I enjoy coming and sharing with you guys, and number two, I love being able to meet and talk to a new guest every week. But we're back. I'm back. There are going to be some glitches during the calendar year. I'm very fortunate that I'll be able to travel and do some great work in my advocacy this year. So some opportunities came up, but I will keep you afloat of the calendar. We've got some really cool guests that have signed up, and I've lined up for you. So please stay tuned. Don't forget me. I want to thank all of you, everybody who's watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. If you do me a favor and just share this on your page so that other people can watch. And for all of you watching on YouTube, do me a favor, scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and smash that bell so you can get notified every time there's a new show. And remember, we've got horoscopes on Monday, Christian and Daniel on Wednesdays, Card Debo, which is coming back on Fridays, and put it together live stream on Saturdays. Plus some other shows that we might be doing. I've got some other things in mind, so we might be putting out some more stuff from Little Mexican Production Sync. So y'all stay tuned. And um, uh, oh, we got our first comment. Hi, Wayne. We were just talking about you a little bit ago, so we'll talk more about you in just a minute. My guest today, her name is Iris Peña, and she is the founder of Mother Medicine, helping busy professionals double their energy and confidence and deepen their spiritual gifts through her Total Transformation Program and Rehu Tech Energy Therapy Sessions, supporting your health and wellness of your body, mind, and spirit to live your life to true potential. And we'll show her website in just a minute, but let me bring her on so we can start talking. And hi, Iris.
Hi, how you doing, Daniel?
I'm good. So good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate this. This is
My
wonderful.
pleasure. For those of you that like to hear the backstory, I met Iris and through actually our first comment of the day, which is Richard. I know him as Wayne, but Wayne is one of my best friends, a dear friend. I've known him for over 10 years now, and he is always really cool about introducing me to some awesome people. Diane, who was on the show before, is one of the people who introduced me to, and Iris. And we scheduled the Zoom to meet. I'm going to tell the behind. We scheduled the Zoom to meet, and we were supposed to be on for like 45 minutes, an hour. We ended up talking for 2 hours that day.
We did. I'm like, I thought it was going to be like a quick, 20, 30-minute conversation. I was like, okay, we'll see what goes on here. And we just kind of took off on all of our many stories that we were sharing back and forth. So that was really nice.
I always say get two energy people together, and it just creates even more energy. Like it was really cool. So from then on, it's like, okay, we're gonna get together for tacos at some point because you're awesome.
Thank
How
you.
are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I know you're saying Wayne is one of your best friends. Wayne's one of my best friends as well, too. Um, I love him dearly. He actually, it's a funny story. The way we met is he actually was one of my students when I used to teach intuitive development classes, gosh, well over a decade ago. And that's where I kind of first started out is just teaching some on the side, teaching some little, intuitive development classes, channeling classes, different things like that at different spiritual churches and community centers and things of that nature. And yeah, he was one of my students, and over the years, we just kind of kept in contact and became closer and closer friends. And now we are, texting daily and enjoy little adventures together and stuff as well too. So yeah, I'm like very grateful to have him in my life as well.
Cool. Yeah, we met, and we've told the story. Wayne came into the store when I was working at the Chakra Shack here in Laguna Beach. For those of you that know Laguna Beach, you must know the Chakra Shack. But he came into the store one day. Then when I started the mastermind, the light nights, he became part of that, and then that just triggered it. Like it's just one of my best buddies. Love you, Wayne. Love you.
Love
Um,
you.
but okay, I know because we talked for 2 hours the first time, you have a lot to share. So let's get started.
Right.
Iris, tell us how you put it together.
So yeah, like I was saying, I started gosh, over 15 odd years ago, started doing this work, started jumping into energy healing. My sister was like, "Hey, I found out this new thing. It's called Reiki. You want to try it out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's go see." It's all natural, and diving into anything that was natural and different alternatives and stuff. And we uh, we would go to different classes together, and just picking up a lot of different little skill sets. So like as I taught classes prior to me teaching classes, I used to take a lot of classes. I used to take things for channeling, intuitive development, all kinds of things. And that's kind of where I just kind of was diving into. I was really curious. I wanted to know more about the unknown, right? Because we only get so much information in our mundane lives, right? You go to work, you eat, sleep, pay bills, you do all that stuff. I'm like, I wanted to know more. Um, so I was playing around with a lot of that stuff. And at the same time, I actually, fun fact, I lived in a haunted house for 10 years. Um, and that was a big spiritual awakening for me, because even though I always had this idea of like, oh, I'm like, are ghosts real? Are they not? Are there other, these subtle energies, right? How do they work? What is all that? And I was kind of thrown right into it, in my spiritual awakening, and it really happened with my middle daughter, and she was having night terrors, um, and I would nobody was sleeping at night. It would happen anywhere from like a minute to sometimes up to an hour, where we were trying to wake her up, couldn't get her to wake up. Um, Go to the doctors, go to like she's like screaming in her sleep, like I don't know what to do, like, and she was young. She was God, I think she was like probably in preschool at the time. So we were just trying to like figure out like what she was one of three kids. My son was a baby at the time, and my other daughter as well. And yeah, the doctor's like, "Oh, it's night terrors. Don't worry, she'll grow out of it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, what do I do in the meantime?"
Right.
Like,
Right.
I'm like, no one's sleeping in the house. Like, we try to comfort her, have her in bed with us, keep her in her room, we doing all kinds of different things, trying to figure out. And like, you don't sleep, you can't think, you just like nothing's, no one's really functioning in the house. Um, so I was on some like spiritual forums and stuff like that, and ended up one of the spiritual forums was asking like, "Oh, do you live in a haunted house?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And so I started writing some stories down, and as I started writing stories, I was like, "Oh, wow, we have like a lot of things going on. We have like a lot of activity going on in this house," because it's one of those things that you just kind of get used to after a while. Like there's a little bit here, a little bit there, and you just kind of brush it off. Um, but once I started like writing everything down, and I'm like looking back, and I was like, "Oh crap, we've had a lot of things going on in this house." And I'm like, "Huh." But anyways, I went through, did this whole thing. Do you live in a haunted house? If you live in a haunted house, then um, you might be part to take part of the Lisa Williams show. So I don't know if you know who
Yeah.
Lisa Williams is. Yeah. So she was a well-known medium that was on the Lifetime channel for many years and stuff like that. And so we got picked to be on the Lisa Williams show, and it was pretty really interesting. Um, she ended up coming down, and even and it was really interesting because she even said how like when she was coming down, she even felt sick, trying like she almost didn't make it because the energies were so heavy in the house, um, that they were like literally pushing her away. But she ended up making it down there, and at that time I didn't I was trying to do everything. I wanted to prove to myself that this was something real, because I had a belief that, like, okay, she's on TV, she's well respected, like this is her work, that, you know, she's a professional in this area. But I didn't want my kids to know yet, and I didn't want them to be any kind of subconscious, you know, thoughts with that. So I packed up all my kids and I had them stay at a babysitter's house that night. So they weren't around and had no idea what was going on. Because here again, my daughter's been crying almost every night for the last year, having a hard time sleeping, right? Um, had them go over there, had Lisa come down. She cleared the house, cleared the space, crossed over the spirit that was in our house. Um, and even once the spirit was crossed over, I mean, I could just feel like this huge weight coming off of the whole house, the whole energies around. And I was just like, so much so that it almost made me dizzy. I was just like, whoa, like this is intense. This is crazy, right? It's so wild. And so here it was. She had crossed them over. We had talked and did everything else. The next morning, I brought my kids back. They had no idea what had happened. Didn't tell them anything. Um, and by the end of the week, my daughter was sleeping peacefully.
Nice.
I was like, she still had like, it was, I feel like it was almost just like muscle memory and just, you know, almost like trauma, you know, still kind of built in of that, where she was waking up a little bit and stuff the next few days. But by the end of the night, she was sleeping, and we were all able to sleep again. And we're like, oh my gosh, like who would have thought? Like we've been suffering for this whole year, and you know, and longer really, that we've been living there. But that's when it had started really affecting her. And yeah, so that was my big thing for all of that.
So by the time the haunted house comes into play, like you you're already practicing, right?
So at that point in time, I was just like dabbling in little things, right? So I just probably, I think by that time, because I was living in the house while I was dabbling in like learning Reiki and trying to figure out, you know, other things of that nature as well too. Um, but that was really where I was like, okay, this is real, and this is what I need to do in order to help my kids and help other people as well too.
Because for a lot of folks, and because I remember when I was first starting 10 years ago, and that's when I met Wayne, and when I met my partner Christian, and the other people of Light Nights. Um, in those early days, months, probably the first year, like when we're tapping into the energy and you're starting to open up your chakras and you're starting to receive the energy, and you're starting to have that third eye view of other things that other people can't pay attention to. That's
Right.
I feel like that's the make it or break it time in our spiritual journey. Because I know a lot of people who were like, nope, I'm not going there anymore. I'm done. I'm walking away, and they just never practiced anymore. Like I stayed in, and then there was those of us who were like, oh yeah, Ghostbusters. Let's go for more. Uh, did you have those moments, especially with kids?
It was because of my kids that I felt that I needed to continue to push forward, because even though I had my own intuitive gifts that I was developing, my children were able to see things and hear things way more than I was, especially my oldest daughter. Um, she sees them plain as day, like they're standing next to you. And I was like, oh, okay. Like she sees her animal spirit guides very plain as day. And I'm like, nope, I see them more in my mind's eye, you know, and you get those different impressions, get different sensations within my body and stuff. But yeah, trying to basically help my children hone their skills so that way they didn't feel that they weren't scared about it. They weren't um, worried about it. They were able to protect themselves energetically from any heavy energies that were around or coming through. So it was very much like, you know, you don't get a parent's manual to begin with, and then you definitely don't get a supernatural parent's manual. So
Age
so
45. If you see
Right? I'm
both
like, how,
parents,
how
yeah.
do I deal with the psychic child?
Yeah. For those of you that bought the volume one, you have to get volume two of the book. And
Right, right.
yeah, we do have another comment here. Oh, a little late to the video where we're talking about Iris and her coming into her own abilities and her own gifts, but also sharing them with her kids. This is where we are in the story, and we're talking about haunted houses too. So join the conversation.
It's
Um,
the whole
but thank you
beginnings
for
of my
joining us,
my
Jesus. Thank you
journey.
for being here. Um, as a parent, like you just mentioned, like there is no manual out there that says, okay, should you grow, if once you have children, should they see spirits? Here's what to do.
Right.
What were your resources? How did you figure out what to do?
Um, I said I was just things that I would Google online, right? I would read different books. I think my biggest resources was I was taking intuitive development classes. I lived in Anaheim at the time, um, and so there's a not far in Corona. Um, is where I used to go like almost weekly to take different classes and just meet other people, other spiritual people, understand. I would ask my mentors as well then too, and just like, oh, I have this going on. What do I do with this? How do I do this? And just met different spiritual people along the way, bouncing off ideas, trying different things. Um, During the same time, I also went from uh, Catholicism and started venturing into more pagan religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs in that sense, and started studying things like witchcraft, Hinduism, Buddhism, angelology, all kinds of different things. I was just reading and soaking up as much information as I could, and seeing how so many different spiritual practices had so many of the same beliefs. And so it's just taking, all these little pieces of the puzzle, right, to pull together different information that I needed for myself. And so that way I could better serve myself and my children. Um,
Yeah,
so it was a lot, just a lot of self research, really, just diving into it. I was hungry for knowledge.
there's a couple of things I want to highlight in what you just said. Number one is ask questions. If you are practicing, then you probably know other people, and if you know other people, they probably went through something similar. Maybe not the same thing, but similar. But asking questions can lead you to the correct answers or to the best answer for you. And another thing that, like for instance, we did in Light Nights is that we didn't limit ourselves to one practice. Everybody in the group, there was eight of us. Everybody in the group had a different gift, and they all brought it to the table and said, "Hey, this is how this works. This may not be what you want to practice, but at least know it so that you
Right.
know what you're dealing with." And I think that's really key, which I think made us all, if I can say it humbly, made us better gifted people because I don't use pendulums a lot, but I learned psychometry. I don't use it a lot, but I learned. So at least you know what you're dealing with. Does that make sense?
Correct, exactly. And yeah, I've learned a lot of different things over the years, and some things that I've held on to and continue to use in my practice, and other things that I'm like, oh, didn't work for me or whatnot. And then maybe in a few years later, come back and I was like, oh, I'm going to try this again. And
Yeah.
that has, when I need it, it's there. So,
We have a common question on the board here for you. Good day, Iris. Do you feel looking back that in your dabbling, you might have attracted or opened the door for spirits to be present in your home?
now those spirits were there prior to me moving into that home. It was very much the house that I used to live in was my husband at the time, when I was married. It was his family house, and his family, who had been doing their own practices, their own spiritual practices that were going on there too, and had opened up a lot of portals. There was their grandfather, their family grandfather that was also roaming the house and haunting there as well too. The and from what I heard as well too, that the house was bought very quickly and cheaply because there was a suicide in the house, which so it was the family house that we had, my husband and I at the time had taken up, and we didn't know when we had purchased it off of his family that that had happened, and we found out as time went along. And so this person who had committed suicide in the house was that same person that Lisa Williams had crossed over for us at the time. So um, yeah, it was more of I moved into it and it was universe going like, okay, you've kind of been avoiding this for a while. We know you have these gifts and therefore here you go. Have
Yeah,
fun with it.
it's kind of like you walked into the portal, not the portal open for you kind of thing.
Correct.
Another question for you: how would you advise a family with your wisdom and experience now to deal with this seemingly unbelievable experience?
Wow. So actually, because of this, I've become very well attuned to being able to clear homes. So where Lisa Williams was a wonderful medium, and there's some people that are great with communicating with, ghost whisperers, right? I'm more of a ghostbuster. So I actually go through and clear homes and provide this service for people as well too, where I will go in, clear out the homes, set the energies and the boundaries there as well too, and help provide any guidance for that for those people as well. And I actually do that for not only just for clearing, but also for setting intentions. I actually part of my business where I do my energy therapy at is called Inner Chi Wellness Center here in Corona, and so I actually hold space and set the boundaries there as well too. And I thought it was very interesting. Sorry, quick side note that the owner was tracking me for a while. After every time I would do a clearing in the home in the office space, I would just set it, clear it, set the boundaries, ask for good prosperity for all the people that work there and good health. And every time I would do that, she would see an increase in revenue. So she would see more old bills that, back pay clients that weren't paying, all of a sudden they were paying all of a sudden. She got new clients that were coming in, like just all these different shifts, um, anywhere from 1,000 within the first week and up to 6,000 within the coming weeks. So I was like, wow, that's really cool. So it's really very much about setting intentions and clearing that. And because I lived in a haunted house for a good 10 years, I've really I really got to hone my gifts and be able to shift and maneuver with energies um, to be able to do all of that. So yeah, I've taught workshops on this, on being able to clear your own space. But for any of those heavy things, I do recommend, giving me a call and let me know. And I'm more than happy to help people out with that because it's not one of those things that it was one of those things that I was life goals to be. It was one of those things that kind of happened, and I'm like, okay, I got this gift. Let me see how I can help other people with it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think a lot of us as kids were like, "What do you want to do when we grow up? I want to be a cowboy, an astronaut, and a Ghostbuster." Just
right,
like,
right.
I want to heal people's energy. Like, yeah, that's right there. But coming back to this coming from Christians, like, yeah, definitely ask an experience. Yeah, always ask somebody who knows a little more. Like, I totally, because I had that mastermind group, I'm all about people learning and researching. But along with your research and your learning on your own, make sure that you're asking people who are already on the journey, just so that you know that you're on the right track. Because there are things that, like, you 15 years, me 10 years on my side. Like, there's things that we know. Like, no, don't do that. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, that is not part of it. And then there's some
Right.
things that are like, yes, please. It's a little scary. You might not know how you feel, but keep going in that direction. You're doing fine. So for those are we're kind of like when you go bowling for kids, those little bumpers on the rails on the side.
Right.
somebody with experience is those rails on the side. We want you to score, but we also want you to be safe. So please ask. We have another comment here. Iris is a powerhouse. Yes. Oh, he's experienced. I was looking through the website. I'm going to put up the website before we're done, but I was looking through the website. I'm like, ooh, like, I think give her a comment. Um, I had a question and I just forgot. I didn't write it down. Okay, so here's another quick comment. Iris, how are you helping your child or children to develop and grow into their wonderful gifts? What resources have you found to support their gifts? Good question.
So because of a lot of this stuff as well too, I, as I was clearing the homes and developing my own gifts, I was teaching my children how to develop their gifts as well too. And I ended up also teaching children for many years, where that's where I started. Wanted to teach other children how to um, embrace their gifts, because it is, especially prior to puberty, um, children are a lot more open and receptive and see a lot more things. And so it was very much where I would just teach these little classes, um, teaching kids, it's like your imagination is real, but you also have to be able to make sure that you're able to control it, and stay in power with it and utilize your gifts. I would even have my son at times where he's like, "Oh, there's something in here," and I was like, "Go tell him to get out of the house." And it's like, that's your room. He's not allowed to stay in there. If he's in there, like if there's something in there, tell him to leave. And so here would be my son. He was, you know, again, this is when he became more of a toddler years, or now I would say he was probably early elementary at this point in time. And he's like, "Oh, but I'm scared." And I was like, "No, it's your room. Do you want him in your room?" "No." I'm like, "Okay, go, then go tell him to leave." And so he would go into his room and be like, "Get out. This is my room. You're not allowed to be in here. Get out." And I could just feel the shift go. And then all of a sudden he was like, and then he went, lay down, went to bed. And I was like, "All right, this is great." And I'm like, ghostly parenting. And so it is basically empowering children to, stand in their own power and take back their power and their space. So I would teach children to do a lot of that stuff for many years as well.
Cool. Uh, moving on to, so we've talked a lot about that stage of your life, but then at what point do you, because I'll say this, like it took me a good like 3 4 years to be like, okay, especially once I became a Reiki master, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to start teaching the things that I've learned, and show people how to pull. At what point did you say, okay, I'm ready to teach? Um, and we both talked about this in our first 2 hour meeting. Like I developed my own style of spiritual life coaching. At what point did you decide, like, and how did that grow your programs and your teachings?
Sure. So I was doing, children classes and doing that on the side as I was working and stuff. I worked many years as a graphic designer, and did a lot of that for a while. And then when my oldest daughter actually became, she was about 12 at the time, and she came down with chronic pain, chronic illnesses. Um, I let go of a lot of my side classes. I put them on hold so I can um, focus on my oldest daughter's health, because within a couple months she had pain that had just started on her knees that went through her whole body, and we couldn't figure out why. So I actually spent almost the next decade now um, trying to figure out how to better support her health, and where, again, trying to figure out, working with doctors, trying to figure out different treatments, different things to help her out with. Today we now know that it's our family line has genetic conditions of EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder. POTS, which is a postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, is a blood pressure condition. Basically, the blood pressure pools to the bottom. So you stand up, get dizzy, and it's like, whoo, and your body's not able to hold your blood pressure up. And then MCAS, which is mast cell activation syndrome, which is autoimmune condition. So those are those little triad of things that tend to normally go together, but they were considered very rare at the time. And because she was under 18, a lot of doctors did not want to help her, didn't want to do certain treatments with her because it was they were scared to. Anything under 18, they're just like, oh no, that's way too much of a liability. So I did everything I could to figure out different alternative treatments. Of course, I was, I'd went from Reiki to practicing Reiki energy, which is the energy modality that I practice today, and I use in my energy therapy sessions, utilizing, energy treatments on her, changing diets, changing different structures, trying all kinds of different things. Fast forward today, she's now lives with her partner, managing her conditions, doing a lot, better with many things as well too. But this was a really big um, eye opener for me, because I really, as much as I love all the spiritual practices and all the beautiful things that come with spirituality and the great insights that I've gotten, 'cause that's what helped me to maneuver through a lot of the Western medicine and figuring out what was right for my daughter, what wasn't right for her, what was going to, serve her best. And where I ended up going back to school and getting my certification to be a health and life coach, because I would see this in my energy therapy clients. I do healing sessions on them. They would love it. They'd feel great for the next couple of weeks, and then come back and we redo them as they're going along. And I was like, gosh, I'm like, I feel like I'm helping them on one step, but there are still different habits that are ingrained in us that need to be changed, um, in order for these people to be able to take their healing to the next level.
Right.
Because just like if you break your arm, you go to the doctor, you get it casted. They're like, okay, take care of it, whatever. You go out, you get the cast off, you're doing the same old stuff again. You go and break your arm again. It's like, well, the doctor can only fix so much, right? They can only cast you. So don't do that again. That's all they can tell you, right? Don't do that
Right.
again. But if that person still has those innate habits within them, these ongoing patterns, then it becomes difficult for them to, like, okay, we're going to fix you up, but then they're not able to fix themselves and hold themselves accountable through all that. So that's where I really loved coming into my health and life coaching program that I have, the 90-day program that I help people basically go through and uncover the different things that are um, keeping them stuck, um, holding them back, and that they don't even realize it, because it's just, we go through every day the same things over and over again, right? We are creatures of habit. Totally nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we have these habits that become more self-sabotaging and self-destructive than we realize, right? So I like to be able to help people understand what those are, and then put healthier habits in place. That way they are feeling more energized, they are feeling more confident, more empowered to make decisions, not only mentally, but physically, having the body to be able to support them on their journeys to be able to get what they want.
So is that the total transformation program that
Correct. Yes,
you're
that's my
using?
total transformation program that I've been working on, and I've seen some really great uh, opportunities blossom from people that I've been working with, and where we may have started with, health and lifestyle um, areas that they wanting to improve. And then by the end of the 90 days, they're like, okay, I've got all this health and lifestyle down, and all these opportunities are opening up for me in my life, in my business, in all these different areas, and I love seeing how they've been transforming and moving and blossoming forward with all that too.
Now, since we're talking about transformation programs, and I have my alignment program, um, there's a part within the system of it or the process of it that folks usually have this idea that, oh, I'm working on a self-realization program or bettering myself, that they expect that from A to Z everything's going to be awesome. But there
Right.
are, during the transformation process, there are some points where things get heavy and some things get dark, and not everybody's prepared for that. Is that also within the total transformation program? And can you talk
Oh,
about that a little
totally.
bit?
I love this because since we are creatures of habit, it actually have built-in structures within it to how do I say it? Help catch people when they are starting to self-sabotage themselves. And so, and I'll see this pattern within people is like things are going good, 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 good. And it's like, great, but let's talk about this because I love seeing all these great things, but this was your goal. And I remember that we weren't, you had talked about this, and this is something that you want to do to get to your final goal with everything. So why what's the challenge here? Why haven't you been able to, work on this? Or, what's stopping you from getting there? And really digging deep and understanding like what is that for you? And, let's uncover that. Let's work through that a little bit more because it's those roots that if we ignore them now, then it's going to pop up again later because they're still sitting there under the surface. So bringing that up to the surface, being able to provide a good, compassionate, supportive environment for them, knowing that they're safe to be able to discuss this and be able to take steps forward, small steps to be able to maneuver and get over those blocks that we may have and stuff as well too.
Because I always I find I talk to people about people and things, and like things that influence our life are always people, places, or things. Like there's that's pretty much it. So, but I always say the 50% of it is usually people, and we usually get attached to people, usually people that aren't good for us, and that's why people come to us for these transformations. But then
Right.
as you start helping them to separate from those people, places, and things that are no longer useful in their lives, and it's not a negative thing. I don't know what you think about this. I was on. It's not a complete negative thing to separate yourself from people, places, and things that no longer have a space in your life. If they're stopping you, you need to remove them from your life. But then,
Right.
but like you said, just a habit. Like I'm used to dating this type of person, going to these type of places, and
The
doing these
comfort zone,
things.
right?
Yeah, like I'm used to this, and even though I know that it's causing me trouble, it's what I know. And although I can see that leaving all this is doing me great, they immediately run back to it, and it's normal. I mean, we've all done it. We
Right.
all do it. Even me, 10 years in, I still sometimes tacos and bad food. I'm like, man. But does that make sense to you?
Oh, most definitely, and I think that's the biggest thing is, that I help people slowly, stretch out of their comfort zone because I feel like so many times that we're always trying to push through things, and it's like, "Okay, we're not gonna be pushing anymore. How do we just stretch out of our comfort zone a little bit at a time as well too?"
Yeah, I find this comment very interesting. Yes, some energy
Yeah.
workers find it particularly challenging to work on their loved ones due to their pre-existing. Oh, definitely. I with my partner. This is Christian, my partner. I will only read for him when I buy a new deck of cards, so that I can try them out with him.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, here's a new deck. Sit down, let me see what comes up. But because I feel like there's just too much connection. Like I feel like we
Right,
want to
oh,
change
yeah.
the.
It becomes a little bit, uh deeper and harder to, like, work through the personal connections and whatever we have in our thought processes and a lot of that stuff too. So and I think again that's like working through the comfort zone. You have certain comforts with people, and it's like, okay, well, we know that this is a thing that we are kind of working on or might have an issue with. Like, how do we move past that and really uncover all that stuff as well too?
Because here's a follow-up question: do you find it challenging to work on your children or loved ones because of these pre-existing relationships? I do sometimes. Like
um i I yes and no. So uh I say I work on, like, so I will work on my kids, and you know, even with energy work, I'm actually having them go through my total transformation program as well too. Um, and uncovering these different areas in their lives. And was very much of okay, like, we're going to go through this program. I'm having you guys do it as well. I've seen great transformations for my clients. I want to teach you guys these things as well too. And uh, and of course, they're begrudging it in the beginning, right? They're just like, I'm like, look, I know that there's going to be certain things that are going to come up in here, and then I'm the cause of it. I'm like, because I'm your mom, and you guys only know so much from what I've taught you, and I'm ready to, you know, face up to it, or work through whatever these issues might be, because that's the only way we're ever going to grow together. So if we want to move to the next level, look, I'm willing to apologize for any things that I may have said out of anger or frustration or whatever at that point in time. But let's work through this and move past this so we can be a happier, better family together. Because otherwise, like, what, you're always going to be upset at me, or I'm always going to be upset at you, and we live in the same household? What for? Let's move forward together. So most
I
definitely.
find it cool when family members or friends that I've had for a long time reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I need your help right now," and I'm like, "Okay," and then I have to like block out like all these ideas that I have of them.
Right.
Okay, let's focus on what's at hand, and I can't think about you as I did like 10 years ago because that's not you now. That's where
Correct.
my difficulty. For those of you out there who are practicing and you're new, yes, it's difficult, but you can do it. There is information that Spirit will send you that's
Correct.
specifically for them. And for me, I feel as long as I know how to separate my personal family best friend judgment and Spirit's words, that I can do the right job. I can do it. It works. You know?
Most definitely. I'll say that I always set my intentions before any session. So whether it is I'm working on a client, or I'm working on my kids, or whatever, because I'm very good at shifting the energy in a room, right? So I always clear the energy in the room first. I always sit and ask that I be guided to serve this person for their highest good. And then I go through my process. And so whatever comes up at that point in time, I am open to receive. I know that I'm channeling information from divine through that time, as well as, going through whatever my process of coaching is, that framework, whatever it might be for that session. And it's such night and day from times that I might just like jump in and be like, okay, let's go. Like, let's talk about this, blah, blah, blah. We're gonna get through this, right? To the times where I'm like, I'm gonna take a step back, clear the space, set my intentions, and go into clear mind. And all of a sudden everything just flows instead of being chop, 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 choppy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And then added to that is sometimes I feel like people who are very close to me, all I can do is give them the tools. You go, here's everything that you need. Here's some, like I'm all about colors and candles and work. Like here's a candle, here's the skeleton for a meditation that you need to write. Here's a mantra that you need to create for your. Here's everything. I'm
Right.
giving you this the kit, but you need to do this because I can't do this for you.
Yep. You can lead a
And then
horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
yeah, I was gonna say like because there's those. I mean, I'm sure we all have them. If you're an energy worker, raise your hand if you haven't had this one. But we've had those people that like a year in, and you're like, we're still talking about the same thing
Right.
from
It's
a
like,
year ago.
I remember I recommended you doing X, Y, and Z. Did you ever get a chance to do that? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
is
yeah.
that? What's stopping you from that? Like, I don't know. And this is where I really love, because for those times, because right, we give them the tools, and it's like, why didn't you do that? And this is where the coaching comes into play, right? We're like, why is that? What's holding you back from that?
Yeah.
What's
Oh, so
stopping
you're dating that same guy again. Well,
you?
good for you. Yes, if you believe it's gonna work this time, good for you. Good for you. But it's gonna go. Yeah, I think most of my friends know whenever I'm working with them or they come to me, if I utter the words, "I say this with love," I feel them cringing because they know that that's moments just like, okay, look, let me throw my sleeves up for this one. All right, so we've come to the 45-minute mark, and this is part of the show where we ask our guests to share some words of wisdom. So, Iris Peña, what words of wisdom do you have for our guests, for our listeners? Sorry.
Oh, I'd say, if you're having trouble and you're feeling stuck, don't feel like you have to do it alone, because we can accomplish everything that we want to do, but we can't do it alone. We need the help of our community. We need the help of friends, coaches, mentors. Um, and that really helps us to be able to take the steps forward to help build our confidence and move forward with everything. Um, and it's they're baby steps. We all need to take baby steps, because it's what seems impossible today will one day become your warm up. But you got to start somewhere with that. So reaching out for help is usually the biggest thing to do first.
I will highlight what you just said. Yes, definitely. If anything, at 51, what life has taught me is that I didn't get where I am today on my own. There have been people along the lines who have pointed to the steps, held ladders for me, um, giving me a push to get to where I am. And I believe that being grateful for those people is what puts other people in my life. Because we've all been that step ladder for other people too. So that's
Right.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying, with anything, it it becomes very hard, because we are so used to knowing just what we know, and if you don't have the right system, the right support, or the right accountability, for any of that stuff, then it becomes hard to maintain it over time. And I think that's important. So when we have somebody that's able to help us with, those three things and getting us to the next level, then that's where we actually start growing, because it's not just a quick fix, right? It's as much as I enjoy, my rituals, my magical workings, my energy work, and everything. And yes, I've done some great healings on people and changed lives. But at the end of the day, there's still other things that are that need to be put in place for our everyday lives, so we can grow and develop into our true potential and where we want to go.
Uh, I had a thought, it just came to mind. Okay, here's the website. What can people find at the website, and what other services do you provide?
So you can go to mothermedicine.org, and you will find there. We talked earlier about the space clearings, if that's what you're needing in your life. I do intuitive coachings, just one-off coachings, if that's something that you're looking for. Um, Energy therapy is the biggest thing. And I know people are notice as energy healing. I'm like, well, those are healings, but I consider it more of a therapy, because it happens over time as you're going through. So energy therapy that I provide here in Corona at Energy Wellness Center. And then, of course, my total transformation program. We start off, if you're curious about it, you want to know more about that, it starts off with a complimentary breakthrough session, guaranteed to find some kind of results, to uncover for you and understand where you're at and see if I'm a good fit for you, if you're a good fit for me, and if it would be worth working together um, for even just a short period of 90 days to be able to get you to your true potential and the goals that you're really wanting to uncover for yourself with all of that. So,
And yes, I agree. The website is very beautiful. And
oh, thank you.
I felt calmer having just explored the website. Yeah, it is very calming.
Everything with all my stuff is all very energy infused. The Reiki energies that I use, so Reiki being Japanese origin, Reiki is Egyptian origins, and so in all of my sessions, everything is Reiki infused energies. So pretty much blasting people with energies just by when they connect with my site and any of my works and stuff too.
For you, if you want to get connected, here is the email to email her for information. But you can also go to the website, and there's a connect with me space. Correct. So
Correct.
if you
And
are
follow me online on Facebook, Instagram, especially. Um, been a lot more active on there, but you can follow me on Instagram at Mother Medicine 369, and that will you'll see a lot more of my updates and promotions and different things that are going on. That's a little bit more live and up to date. So at in Instagram, Mother Medicine 369.
there's a question that I get asked quite often when I talk about energy work, and it's like, can you work on everybody? And before I give my answer, what's your answer to that?
Can I work on everybody? Um, I guess I'm trying to figure like, so if anybody were to come to me and can I work on them?
Yeah,
Um, I'm like, yes, to an extent, but that person also has to be open because it is, I can, you can pour water on a person and everything, and they'll either drink it up or it'll run right off of them. Right. So, however, if, you know, they are blocked and they're not wanting to do it, you know, energetically, can I break down those boundaries for them? Most definitely, but it's not going to be a very good, comfortable process for them, right? And I prefer to work with people that are open um, to other possibilities because then that allows my work to be more enjoyable as well as their process to be a lot more enjoyable. So if they're begrudging, they're pushing back, and it's like, if you're not open, like that's okay. Like you're not ready for this right now. Like no skin off my back. Like when you are, I'm totally here and I'm totally available for you. But if this is not the time and place for you, like I'm okay with that too.
that's exactly where I was going. There's people that I I'll be in an event or people give somebody a gift and they come and they're already by the time they either in person or online and you can already feel the block like they just don't and like you I'm like, hey, look, like this isn't your thing, it's not your thing, and
Right,
I can't, I'm not going to force myself into your energy field.
right,
But a lot of times I tell them like, but if you want to just do this for the enjoyment of the moment and just have a good time, just see what comes up. If it
right,
doesn't work, it doesn't work, and just it was a gift. You walk off happy. I did my job, and we're both good. And I don't know if it happens to you, but towards the end, most people are like, "Oh my god, like I didn't know that was going to happen." I'm like, "Well, you just
yeah. Right. I'm like usually, especially when I do like energy healings on people and stuff, like they're usually so blissed out, like this energy, euphoric bliss that they're just like, whoa, whoa. And I'll like ask them like, how are you feeling? How, are you doing okay? They're like, I, I can't even explain it. It's like otherworldly for them because they've never experienced that before, right? So they're just like, oh, and then usually I do my follow-ups like 3 days later because I know it takes time for the energies to really integrate and for them to soak it all in, and then that's where I'm like they're like, "This pain is gone. I feel great. I slept really good. This is," all these things are, you know, like, I feel clearer, I can think, all these things, right? And I'm like, "Wonderful, like, good to hear," because they've had time to integrate everything in and be able to communicate, so Yeah, I definitely see that with people all the time.
It's really cool, and I've explained it because I come from the Catholic background, and obviously a lot of Catholics are like, oh, and I'm like, but you go to church and light a candle. It's not much different than me lighting a candle for you or us lighting a candle together to bring you that energy. And
Mhm.
I'm like, do you blow birthday candles? And they're like, yes. I'm like, well, that's. Do you make a wish? They're like, yeah. I said, well, that's not very different than me lighting a candle for you.
Right,
I'm like, especially like moms, I'm like, do you hug your kids when they're not feeling well? And I'm like, they're like, yeah. I'm like, do you rub them when they're not, to console them? I'm like, yeah. I said, well, there's a good line between that and Reiki. We're
right,
channeling energy. I said, so it's not that different. We just see it different, which is why I'm so happy that at the beginning of the show you mentioned how you studied different and realized, hey, let's funnel all this information into one and see how it comes out. Does that make sense?
right. Most definitely, because I truly believe it's just, taking all the pieces of the puzzle to create your own reality and uncovering what you need and what's going to best serve you for your highest good. And so learning a lot of different aspects over the years has helped me get to where I wanted to be and where I am today. So
Because there was a point where I did struggle mentally with spirituality and religion because growing up it was like no, they're two separate things. And then as I got older, I realized, wait a minute, I'm spiritual and I believe in spirit and the universe and everything that I do. But I'm also religious because I believe in God and I still pray in the mornings and
mhm.
I thank Him for the things in my life. How can I integrate these two things so that I can find my balance and be centered and grounded as best as I can?
Right,
And like you, I had to like, okay, let me find the similarities because it's easy to find the differences. It's so easy to find the differences
right,
and
right,
and to start that discussion and argument about it's so different. But then the moment you go that I believe that extra mile and you're like, okay, well now we know the differences. How about the similarities?
mhm.
How can we make them work together? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
I find that so much, with, all my clients, and I always try to level set with them and ask them, like, "What is your spiritual practice?" And meet them wherever they're at, um, because I feel like they're all the same, we just call them different things, a prayer, a blessing, saying a prayer, setting your intention, right? You blow out a candle, you're making a wish, almost casting a spell, right? Like it's all these same things. Um, but it's just our perception, which changes it and will add or take away power from it.
Yeah,
So my my whole purpose is to empower people wherever they're at. And it's like, yes, you're praying. I think prayer is a very powerful thing. Like, because you are setting your intentions and you are asking for what you want and asking that to come into your reality. So I completely support that.
that's right. So for everybody, we've been talking today. We're almost at the end of the show. We're talking today to Mother Medicine, Iris Peña. Such a lovely person. So lovely conversation. Go check her out. Check out her website at mothermedicine.org. You'll find everything she does. There's a contact page, but if you want to email her directly, it's mothermedicine369 at gmail.com. Make sure you check her out. Um, we please come back on the show. This was
Oh,
a,
I'd love to.
and I
That's
feel like we didn't even like get deep into stuff. At some point, we're gonna have to have you, Diane, and Wayne on the show and do another panel show.
Oh, we'll be talking forever.
Those are very popular, and the last time we did one, people were really like into the conversations.
Oh,
Uh,
I love that.
But anything else we didn't talk about before we leave?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. I've really enjoyed this and just kind of sharing my stories and um, answering questions from people. So I'm looking forward to new people I'll be meeting through here as well. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm gonna put you in the green room for a second. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back for you.
Sounds good.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us today. My guest today was Mother Medicine, Iris Peña. Remember, we have shows here on the network. Little Mexican Production still has the three shows going. Check us out on Wednesdays with Little Christian and Daniel show. On Fridays, the Card Diva, which I promise I am coming back on Fridays. It's just been very hectic with work, and on Saturdays put together live streams, um, and then check us out. We have pop up shows during the week, so make sure that you are following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you're on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. It'll let you know every time something new pops up. We also have the horoscopes that come up every Monday, so make sure you follow us. And those are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and then some other pages around. So they're on Nextdoor, they're on the Nextdoor website. Anyway, you can find us all over the place. For now, I want to thank all of you for watching. Please join us next time. This is Daniel Garza saying, hey, see you next time. Bye.